Have you ever stayed with someone because you believed they might change, because you clung to the version of them you first fell in love with? I did. And it nearly destroyed me. But it wasn't the bruises, the gaslighting, or the constant fear that finally made me leave. It was the coffee, scalding hot right across my face. And just like that, everything shattered. 6 years of marriage, gone in one instant. The mug hit the wall behind me and cracked like our entire life together. My skin burned, my heart pounded, and my ears were still ringing from his words. If you were smarter, you'd have hidden that money better. That was David, my husband, or the stranger I had come to live with. I touched my cheek. The pain wasn't just physical. It was years of sacrifice, of saving, of saying no to things I loved just to build a future together. And he had thrown it all away in a weekend of drinking with his buddies. That was our future, I whispered, though my voice barely made a sound. David laughed. But it wasn't a laugh I recognized. It was hollow, bitter, lifeless. What future, Anna? Look around. You think this, he gestured to our cramped, worn-out apartment, is going somewhere. He grabbed his keys, didn't even look back, and slammed the door behind him. I stood in that silence for a long time. Then, like a machine, I walked to the bathroom. I winced when I saw my reflection, skin already red and swollen. I reached into the cabinet for aloe but stopped halfway. My fingers grazed something I hadn't touched in a long time. Sleeping pills. Left over from the nights I couldn't shake the nightmares. I hadn't needed them in months. But now, something inside me clicked. I didn't take the pills. I didn't need them. What I needed was to leave. No panic. No sobbing. Just a quiet, resolute calm. I pulled out my old suitcase, the one I hadn't used in years, and started packing. Just the essentials, clothes, toiletries, my nursing license. I left the wedding album, the framed photo of us on our honeymoon, the anniversary gifts, the life we'd built that never really was. But I didn't leave everything. At the very back of the closet, behind winter coats and shoes I hadn't worn in ages, was a small wooden box, smooth, worn, carved by hand. I held it in my lap for a moment, feeling the weight of it. I hadn't opened it in 5 years. Not since the day I tucked away something too painful to face. That box held my greatest sorrow. And my last bit of strength. I zipped it into my suitcase. I looked around the apartment one last time. The glass figurine his mother gave us. The set of coffee mugs we'd gotten as a housewarming gift. Now one short. A photo of us sunburned and smiling in Mexico. All lies now. All things that didn't matter. I called Sarah, my closest friend from nursing school. Can I stay with you tonight? Yes. There was a pause. Then her voice flooded with concern. Of course. Don't even ask. Come now. I scribbled a quick note, left it on the kitchen counter and walked out. Just like that. I didn't cry until much later, curled up in Sarah's guest room, staring at a ceiling I didn't recognize. Not because of what David had done, but because I had stayed for so long. Because I had convinced myself I could fix him. Because I had believed the promises. Because of the child that never got a chance to be born. I must have fallen asleep crying, because the next morning I woke to sunlight and panic. My phone buzzed non-stop. 17 missed calls. 23 texts. 9 voicemails. And the last message chilled me to the bone. I found the box, Anna. Why did you hide this from me? Call me back. Now. He'd found it. The one thing I had kept hidden all these years. The thing I never thought he'd care enough to discover. He had found the baby shoe. And suddenly, everything changed. I stared at his name on the screen, my heart pounding so hard I thought it might crack my ribs. David was calling again. I didn't want to answer, but I had to. The box, he knew. Picked up. Anna. His voice was lower than I remembered. Less rage, more confusion. What is this? What does it mean? You opened it, I said quietly, steadying my breath. Of course I opened it. You left a note that said everything I need to know is in the box. What did you expect me to do? There was a long silence on my end. Then finally I said it. You saw the shoe. His voice cracked. A baby shoe. Tiny one. Why didn't you ever tell me? For 5 years, I said, walking to the window. I carried that alone. I was pregnant, David. His breath caught audibly through the phone. You were pregnant. Why didn't you? I found out the day you got your promotion, I cut in. Remember? Your coworkers took you out to celebrate. You came home that night drunk off your face. No, he muttered. I don't. You came in screaming, accusing me of moving the furniture. I hadn't touched anything. You were just angry. You threw the coffee table across the room. You grabbed me and slammed me into the wall. I don't remember that, he whispered. I know, I said. You never do. You never remember the worst parts. I swallowed hard. I started spotting the next day. 2 days later I miscarried. There was nothing but silence on the line. And then softly he said, if I'd known, I would have stopped. I would have changed. I laughed, but it wasn't the kind of laugh you ever want to hear from someone. It was sharp, broken, tired. You promised to change after you dislocated my shoulder. You said you'd change after you punched a hole in the wall. After you spent our savings on booze. You always said you'd change. I've been trying, he snapped. No, I said. You've been pretending. I heard rustling, then muffled voices. His mother must have been there. Course she was. Helen, his protector, his enabler. The woman who once told me a good wife should know when to stay silent. Anna, come home. Please. We can talk. We can fix this. I'm not coming home. You don't have anywhere to go. What will you do? I thought of my nursing license. Sarah. Of the long drive the night before. The growing sense that I could build something else. Something better. I'll figure it out, I said simply. Please. Me see you. Just once. You owe me that much. I owed him nothing. But something in his voice stopped me. Tomorrow, I said. Noon. The park by your hospital. Public. When I hung up, my hands were still trembling. I had no idea what tomorrow would bring. I only knew it was time to face the truth. All of it. Later that morning, Sarah knocked on my door, holding a steaming mug of coffee. She froze when she saw my cheek. What happened? David. She set the coffee down and sat beside me, grabbing my hands. Tell me everything. And for the first time I did. All of it. The drinking, the violence, the baby, the years I spent apologizing for his behavior. As I spoke, something shifted inside me. I wasn't just telling my story. I was reclaiming it. I'm meeting him tomorrow, I told her. I'm coming with you, she said, not asking. I need to do this myself, I replied. I'll stay nearby, she nodded, reaching into her pocket. But before you go, I want you to have this. It was a card. A domestic violence counselor's name and number. She's incredible, Sarah said. Please call her. I looked at the card and tucked it into my pocket. Did I do the right thing by leaving? Yes. Sarah's eyes filled with tears. Oh, Anna, she said. The only wrong thing would have been staying until it was too late. Tomorrow I would face David again. One last time. But I had no idea he was hiding something else. Something bigger than the box, bigger than the baby shoe, bigger than all the years of pain we'd shared. And when the truth came out, everything would change. The park was quiet that day. Birds chirping, the occasional stroller passing by. A few elderly couples on benches. It was the kind of peaceful setting that made you question if the world could really hold the kind of chaos I just escaped from. I spotted David before he saw me. He was hunched over a picnic table near the pond, shoulders slumped, staring at the ground. For a moment I barely recognized him. He looked small. Like someone had deflated the man I once knew. Sarah sat in her car in the parking lot, keeping watch just like she promised. I gave her a nod, then walked over to him. When he looked up, his face lit up for a second, until he saw the bruise on my cheek. The red mark had turned an ugly shade of purple overnight. His face fell. Anna, he said, standing awkwardly. Thank you for coming. I sat across from him, leaving the table between us like a wall neither of us could cross. You wanted to talk, I said. So talk. He nodded, nervously rubbing his hands on his jeans. I haven't had a drink, he blurted out. Not since you left. It's been one day, David. I know. But it's a start. I didn't say anything. I just waited. I made an appointment with my doctor, he said. To talk about getting help. You've said that before. This time, it's different. I know what I've lost. I stared at him. The baby. Yes. He nodded. You didn't lose anything, I said quietly. I did. Carried that baby. Grieved it. Alone. I'm sorry, he whispered. If I had known, I swear I would have. Would what? Changed. Gotten help. You had every reason in the world to change long before now. I begged you. I would have tried harder. But why would a baby have been enough when I wasn't? The question hit him like a punch. He looked away. He didn't have an answer. And honestly, I didn't expect one. He reached into his jacket and pulled out a photo, folded and worn at the edges. Our honeymoon, he said, sliding it across the table. It was a photo of us standing on a beach. I was laughing, head thrown back, sun in my hair. He was looking at me, not at the camera, with a kind of love that was hard to look at now. You said something that day, he murmured. You said, this is what happiness feels like. Remember this moment. I've kept this photo in my wallet ever since. Why are you showing me this? Because I need you to know I remember who we were. I remember how I felt. Before everything. He paused, his hand shaking slightly. I know I've been a monster. I know I've hurt you. And I know sorry doesn't cut it. But I am sorry, Anna. Not to get you back. I know that's not possible. But because you deserved better. I wasn't expecting that. I had expected deflection, excuses, maybe even anger. But not this. I brought something too, I said. I pulled the wooden box from my purse and placed it gently in front of him. Open it. He hesitated, then slowly lifted the lid. His breath caught. The tiny blue baby shoe lay nestled inside, next to a grainy ultrasound photo. How far along were you? Almost 10 weeks. Do you know if it was a boy or a girl? No. It was too early. He gently closed the box, as if afraid to disturb what was inside. Why did you keep this? Pause. I had asked myself the same question 100 times. Because it was real, I said. Even if only for a short time. And because I thought maybe it could save us. That if I hadn't lost it, maybe you would have changed. Maybe we would have been a family. I would have tried, he whispered. I would have tried to be the father that baby deserved. But you never tried to be the husband I deserved, I said. He nodded. No, I didn't. The silence between us was heavy. Then, almost as an afterthought, he said, I talked to my mom this morning. Told her everything. About the drinking. About how I treated you. About the baby. That surprised me. Helen. Admitting fault. She said she wasn't surprised you left. That she'd been waiting for it. My eyes widened. What? She told me she always saw this coming. That I was turning into my father. Sat back. You never talk about him. Because I barely knew him. He left when I was 4. But according to her, before he left, he was just like me. Violent. Drunk. She said he broke her arm once. Threw her down the stairs. It felt like a cold breeze had swept through the park. All these years, David had claimed to not know what happened to his dad. But now it made sense. The silence. The buried rage. The cycles repeating. She said she thought I already knew, he added, shaking his head. That I must have seen it in myself. And maybe on some level he had. I can't come back, I said. You understand that, right? I'm not asking you to, he said softly. I want your forgiveness. Not now. Maybe not ever. But someday. When I've earned it. Then he pulled something from his pocket. An envelope. It's the savings, he said. It wasn't all gone. I lied. I transferred most of it to another account. It's yours. You earned it. I stared at the envelope. Why lie about it? Because I was angry. Because I wanted to hurt you. Because that's who I was. He pushed the envelope across the table. Took it. And somehow that small action, him returning what was mine, felt like closing a door. David, I said quietly, do you think if things had been different, if you had been different, we would have had more kids? He blinked. I think so. I always wanted a big family. Me too. I hope you still get that, Anna, he said. The family you deserve. I stood, holding the box close to my chest. I hope you find peace, I told him. I really do. He nodded. Goodbye, Anna. And I walked away. But neither of us knew that was far from the end. Because just a few months later, I'd get a phone call that would flip everything I thought I knew on its head. 3 months later, life had finally started to feel mine. I had moved into a small apartment near the hospital. Nothing fancy, but it was quiet, clean, and mine. No one else's moods to manage. No walking on eggshells. No hiding bruises beneath makeup. Just me, Milo the cat, and a fresh start. The money David returned helped me set it all up. Furniture, groceries, even a few indulgences I denied myself for years. A soft blue bedroom, bookshelves filled with novels, yoga classes, a book club. I was rebuilding from the ground up, and slowly I was beginning to feel whole again. Sarah stayed close, my anchor through it all. And I finally reached out to the domestic violence counselor she'd recommended. Janet. She didn't just help me process what I'd been through. She helped me see that the quiet I had now wasn't empty. It was healing. One day, I was leaving the hospital after a grueling shift. My only thought was, hot bath, early bedtime. And then my phone rang. Unknown number. Hello. Is this Anna Mitchell? A woman's voice. Professional but soft. Yes. This is Mercy Hospital. We have a David Mitchell here. You're listed as his emergency contact. Everything in me froze. What happened? He was in a car accident. He's stable, but he's asking for you. I stood there, 1 foot already in my car, the sunset bleeding across the windshield. I should have said no. I had boundaries now. I had peace. But something in her voice. Or maybe some buried part of me. I don't know. I said, I'll be there in 20 minutes. The ER was chaotic. Nurses darting past. Intercoms echoing overhead. They led me to a bed in the far corner, where I found David looking like someone I barely recognized. His face was bruised, a cut running along his temple. His arm in a cast. But that wasn't what shocked me. It was how soft he looked. Thinner. Worn. Like the anger had drained out of him. His eyes fluttered open as I approached. Recognition, then disbelief. You came. I heard you were asking for me. He tried to sit up, winced. Drunk driver, he said with a grim smile. Funny, huh? I get sober, and now this. Are you okay? Broken arm, mild concussion. Nothing dramatic. I'll live. He looked up at me. I'm sorry for dragging you into this. I know you're trying to move on. The nurse said you needed to tell me something. I do. But not here. Tomorrow when I'm discharged. Can we meet again? Somewhere public. Like last time. Every cell in my body told me to walk away. But I nodded. Text me when you're out. Thank you. I turned to leave. Anna, he said, his voice suddenly quiet. I meant what I said before. I'm really trying. 3 months sober. I looked at him. And for the first time I believed it. I'm glad, I said. And I meant it. The next day he texted. We agreed on the cafe near my apartment. I changed my outfit 3 times before finally telling myself to cut it out. This wasn't a reunion. This wasn't a date. This was closure. Or at least, it was supposed to be. He was already there when I arrived, sitting in the corner. His face looked worse, the bruises now deep and purple. He stood awkwardly, his cast bumping the table. Thanks for coming. You said you needed to tell me something. He took a deep breath. When that car hit me. I didn't think about dying. I thought about regret. About what I never got the chance to make right. I braced myself for a speech, maybe even a plea to get back together. Instead, he reached into his jacket and handed me a folded piece of paper. I unfolded it carefully. Medical records. Genetic screening. What is this? After our talk in the park, he said, I couldn't stop thinking about what you said. About how I claimed I'd change for the baby, but never for you. His voice broke. I had to understand why. I scanned the document. My nurse training kicked in. One phrase was highlighted. Huntington's disease. I looked up. My father had it, he said. That's why he was like that. The aggression, the drinking. It was all him trying to numb it. My hands started shaking. You tested positive? I whispered. Yes. Early stages. The mood swings, the outbursts. Those weren't just personality. They were symptoms. I was stunned. Huntington's was progressive. Incurable. A degenerative brain disorder. It's genetic, I murmured, reading the report again. 50% chance for your children. He nodded. If we'd had that baby, they might have inherited it. The air in the cafe grew still. I'm not making excuses, he said quickly. The drinking, the abuse. That was still on me. But I needed you to know it wasn't just me being broken. There was a reason. He paused. There's more. He leaned forward, voice lower. That night, when you lost the baby, I said I didn't remember. But that wasn't true. Do. Not all of it, but enough. I remember grabbing you. I remember how scared you looked. Tears blurred my vision. I've been lying to myself, he said. Pretending I didn't know. But I did. Deep down, I always knew I was responsible. I couldn't speak. I was holding so much pain, anger, relief, grief, all crashing together like waves. I wanted you to know, he continued. Not to make you forgive me, but because it wasn't your fault. Not any of it. We sat there in silence. Finally, I asked, what happens now? With your diagnosis? There's no cure, he said. It'll get worse. The doctors say I've got about 10 good years before it gets bad. And after that, I've made arrangements. Long-term care. Medical directives. I won't let anyone carry this for me. Not again. And then softly. Even if I'd tried to change for the baby, the disease still would have won. I would have hurt you worse. Maybe even our child. The idea crushed me. And yet, in a twisted way, the miscarriage might have spared us all from something even darker. I just needed you to know, he said, so you could finally let go. Without guilt. Without doubt. I looked at him, really looked. This man, he had broken me. But he was also broken. And now he was unraveling in front of me, not asking for pity, but offering the only thing he could, the truth. Thank you, I whispered. He stood. Take care of yourself, Anna. As he turned to leave, something inside me shouted, this might be the last time. David, I called after him. He stopped. I don't regret everything. Not all of it. A sad smile touched his face. I don't deserve that. But thank you. And then he left. But when I went to gather my things, I noticed something on the table. Small key. With a tag. Storage Unit 247. For when you're ready. I slipped it into my pocket. And wondered what was waiting for me on the other side of that door. The key stayed in my purse for weeks. Sometimes I'd forget it was there. Other times it felt like it weighed 10 pounds, burning a hole through everything I was trying to rebuild. I'd turn it over in my hands and wonder, what had David left behind? Was it another apology? A trap? Or something I wasn't ready to face? But on a rainy Saturday afternoon, curiosity won. City storage was quiet. I found Unit 247 tucked in the back corner, small and unassuming. The key fit perfectly. I paused before opening the door, heart racing, unsure if I was ready for whatever truth waited inside. I rolled the door up. Inside was just one thing. A large wooden chest. Old familiar. I'd seen it once before in David's childhood home, stored in his mother's attic, filled with heirlooms and memories. Now it was here. And it was for me. I knelt in front of it, unsure what to expect, bracing myself. Then slowly I opened the lid. Took my breath away. Photo albums. Dozens of them. Pages upon pages of our life together. Snapshots I had never seen before. Not the posed vacation pictures we shared on social media, but real, raw moments. Me sleeping on the couch after a double shift. Us dancing in the kitchen. The look in his eyes as he stared at me when I wasn't looking. Each photo was labeled in his neat handwriting. Anna's graduation, the proudest day of my life. 3rd anniversary. Tulips, her favorite. Anna laughing in the mirror, the sound that saved me. My hands trembled as I flipped through them. Because I realized he had been paying attention, even when I thought he wasn't, even when he was falling apart. Beneath the albums were stacks of journals. Dozens. I opened one from early in our marriage. Woke up to Anna humming again. God, I love that sound. I don't deserve her. Another from the middle years. I lost it tonight. Again. She looked afraid of me. Like I was a stranger. Am I becoming my father? God help me. Another just after I lost the baby. I did something I can't take back. She doesn't know I remember, but I do. The guilt is drowning me. Page after page. Year after year. A chronicle of his unraveling. A record of the war inside him. A desperate attempt to hold on to the parts of him that were still human. And at the bottom of the chest, one final envelope. My name written on it. I opened it, breath shallow. Dear Anna, if you're reading this, then you found the strength to open the chest. I kept all this not to ask for forgiveness, but to give you something I never could when we were together. The truth. There was a war inside me. The man who loved you more than life. And the disease that was slowly killing him. I fought for you. But in the end the disease won. I want you to remember 3 things. First, you were never to blame. Not for the miscarriage. Not for the violence. Not for my downfall. Second, leaving me was the bravest thing you ever did. You saved yourself. You saved us both. And third, I want you to find happiness. To find someone who will love you the way I wished I could. Without fear. Without apology. You deserve a beautiful life. With all that's left of me. David. I don't know how long I sat there. Surrounded by memories. Regrets. Hopes. A kind of truth that was devastating but also clarifying. David hadn't left me with guilt. He had left me with understanding. And somehow, that set me free. A year later, I stood on the balcony of my new apartment, watching the sun paint the sky in streaks of gold. Inside, my book club was laughing over glasses of wine. Milo purred at my feet. This was my life now. Not perfect, but peaceful. I had been promoted to head nurse. I volunteered at a domestic violence shelter. I had friends who saw me, who cared. Sometimes I still thought of David. I heard through friends that he had moved to be near a Huntington's treatment center. Still sober. Still fighting. We exchanged birthday cards now. Simple, unspoken acknowledgments that we once meant something to each other. That we still did, in a way. The wooden box sat on a shelf in my living room. No longer hidden. No longer heavy with shame. Inside, next to the baby shoe and the ultrasound, were new things. A pressed flower from Sarah's bouquet when I moved in. A bracelet made at the shelter during art therapy. A polished stone from a patient who had survived something dark and still found a way to smile. That box wasn't just grief anymore. It was proof of resilience. A record of my becoming. As I stepped back inside, one of my friends handed me a glass of wine and asked, "So what's next for Anna Mitchell?" Smiled. "I'm thinking about going back to school. Maybe work more with survivors. Help others find their light." "Well, whatever you do," she said, raising her glass, "you'll crush it." I looked around. At the laughter, the love, the life I had built from ashes. And I knew, without doubt, without fear, I had survived. Not as a victim. Not even just as a survivor. but as someone finally completely free. If this story moved you, take a second to hit the like button. It really helps. Subscribe for more powerful true stories. And share this video with someone who might need to hear that they're not alone. Healing is messy, but it's possible, one step at a time.